People's Assembly and 20th of June.
I'm going to say yet. Thank you very much for having me. I'm not the Labour Party or the Green Party, but it's great to be in a room with people of all different political flavours, all united under the banner of austerity. However, as a recent student, I have to say, slightly tongue-in-cheek, I'm rather disappointed that he didn't get rid of Nick Clegg, the lying, cheating politician saying whatever he wants to say, whatever they want to say in order to get elected, and then going back on their promises straight away afterwards. Now, as the president of the largest student union in Europe, I was invited to go to Nick Clegg's office. I got a great little photo. I was in there, of us in his office, because we was in the Lib Dem constituencies. And he obviously wanted to get a nice photo opportunity with him consulting with the students, you know, that we agree with him going back on his promises. But we took the opportunity, whilst the BBC and us, everybody were there, to do a little protest inside his office and ripped off our smart shirts and ties with which we went in with and had protest slogans on our t-shirts. Now that became the slogan or the media story that day, that the students don't actually agree with what the Lib Dems are doing, obviously. And then a week later you'll see a couple of students smashed up the Tory party headquarters and what has now become the infamous beginning of the student movement. It was a wonderful time to be there, to be involved in politics. And of course, you know, the students didn't get rid of tuition fees, however they did kickstart the anti-austerity movement. Not long afterwards there was a huge TUC demonstration. I mean, I think it was about 500,000, some people were saying. And of course from then onwards we've had things going off across the country. Students, pensioners, disabled people against CARF, all sorts of campaigns, library campaigns, LGBT campaigns, unions, and so on and so forth. So whilst I waited up with trepidation to see Nick Clegg get ousted, you didn't. Sorry, I know. I'm sure you are. I'm sure the Tories were definitely tactically voting. And then to wake up the next day to see the miserable blue going across the board, but actually elected on a very small number, as we know. 24.6% of the electorate voted for the Conservatives. Now, if the Tories applied the same rule to their trade union rules, they wouldn't have been in. So yes. I wanted to talk a little bit as well about austerity, about whether it's working. Again, there was a debate in Cambridge Student Union where the question was put, this House believes that austerity is working. I had the unfortunate position of being opposite the UKIP ex-treasurer. He had not a clue what he's talking about. He actually rambled, to be quite honest with you, but he didn't once talk about people and the effects that austerity is having on people. Him and the other Tories on the panel, all they talked about is complex derivatives and markets and figures and whatever, but they didn't talk about the effects on people. And we know that austerity isn't actually working. That's why they're implementing more. If it was working, they wouldn't have to implement more. I mean, the figures at the moment, a quarter of the British population, that's 13 million people are living in poverty. 1 million people are living on having to survive by using food banks. 400,000 of those are children who are going to school, and are reports of children fainting because they haven't had breakfast before going to school. People are dying. Only a couple of weeks ago, a guy who uses a wheelchair died because of the cuts to the fire services. They weren't able to get to him in time. In London, where I am, and we've had 10 fire stations closed in the last couple of months. I mean, there's some horrendous scenes of, well, horrendous, emotional things, should I say, of firefighters literally in tears because they know what these cuts do to people. They see it on a daily basis. So obviously it's not working. We know that the government choose where they spend their money. We know that they're making political decisions. We know that they've got money for MPs' expenses. We know they've got money for war. If they can find money for war, in the words of dear old departed Tony Benn, if they can find money to kill people, they can find money to save people. So it's not a the necessary thing. It's not an economic problem, it's a political problem. That's where they're choosing to spend their money. So coming on to the Queen's speech then, I mean, I thought one of the most interesting, I suppose, the students are up in arms about the legal highs being banned, but many more serious things, obviously, that are being proposed. I mean, the right to buy. The whole right to buy, the wonderful thing that Margaret Thatcher implemented. where people are being sort of encouraged to get into thousands and thousands of pounds worth of debt to buy a council house, and then the money isn't being spent on more council housing. We've got a serious shortage of housing across the country. There's been some brilliant protests over housing. And of course then, you know, people on benefits get blamed for this, or migrants get blamed. Migrants are taking our houses. We know that migrants are not taking their houses. Migrants are building the houses, building schools, building hospitals. They're not here to, well, we're not here to because I'm also a migrant, to take houses. I don't know if you saw, am I going too fast? Just realising. I go too fast sometimes. Just stop, slow down. I don't know if you saw the campaign that I was working on recently, the I Am an Immigrant poster campaign that we had in Sheffield as well. I mean, it wasn't the most revolutionary slogan, but we raised £80,000 in just over 2 weeks from people from across the country, £5, £10, and the messages of support that we were getting from people was just, you know, it was about time you see something like this, but really celebrating not just the contribution, but migrants are a vital part of every society. The whole world is, you know, we're all immigrants around the whole world, so you know we should not be scapegoating migrants. 12 billion more cuts to the welfare services alone. We've already heard some wonderful examples of why this is obviously devastating. Education, more and more privatisation. That's exactly what free schools are. It's exactly what academies are. They choose to sort of, you know, to colour that language, to make it sound like, I mean, free school actually sounds wonderful, doesn't it? It's free, go to school free. But no, it's actually them just selling it off to their mates and the highest bidder. And then, of course, I've already mentioned the trade unions. I mean, this is an absolute disgrace that they got in on 24.6% and they expect 40% of the entire trade union section to vote. Which means, actually, even if you don't vote, that counts as a no vote, by the way. So that's one reason why it's so bad. Now, talking about the People's Assembly itself then, and what's been going on over the last couple of weeks, I mean, since the election, I mean, I think we all woke up a bit sort of, shit, what are we going to do about this? Now is the time that we can rise up together. They have not got a mandate for their cuts. They've got no mandate for anything that they're going to propose. So this is a time when we can get together and really, you know, give them a blow on the nose like the students did to the Lib Dems. I mean, that was the best thing about the election, is the fact that the Lib Dems got, from me as a student perspective, and I'm sure a lot of you agree, the fact that they got completely annihilated. I live in some huge constituency, and I was very pleased when he got ousted. So we need to now try to do this to the Tories. We need to get them out. They've got another 5 years, but we can bring them down sooner than that. We can apply pressure to them, but it is going to require us all working together in the broadest possible way to get as many people on board, not just a few, you know, it's not changes are going to happen by just a few knowledgeable people, you know, together, us lot. We need everybody else that we've never met before, that we don't always agree with on everything. There's been some brilliant demonstrations across the country. The ones in Sheffield we posted on our Facebook wall. In Bristol, I don't know if you saw that, a group of, I don't know, 16, 17-year-olds who were, they just did a Facebook event, and 4 days later there was 4,000 people on the street in Bristol. The Tories called them silly little girls. Well, not very silly if you ask me, 4,000 people for a couple of days, absolutely brilliant. Coaches, we've got hundreds and hundreds of coaches already booked in, and they're only the ones that we know of. There are unions across the country are supporting the demo and paying for coaches, trades councils, organisations. We've now had Friends of the Earth support the demonstration. That's quite a big NGO, or is it charity? I'm not sure which one. NGO, it's quite a big one, so I think that gives us some indication of exactly how big it's going to be. Now, it may not be as big as the anti-war march, the 2 million one, which was the first demo that I ever went on, actually. It was what sort of gave me my political awakening, if you like. It may not be that big, but we can work towards that. I don't know if you've seen, did you see We Are Many? Yeah, anyone seen that? I mean, that was absolutely brilliant sort of demonstration, explanation of how things got going, you know, how people started the campaigns, got people involved in the protests, and actually, again, whilst they didn't stop the war in Iraq, only 10 years later they did stop the war in Syria, and the impact that that's had. It has changed public public opinion about war. And 10 years really is a very short period of time in the grand scheme of things. I mean, same with the suffragettes, they had huge demonstrations, and then the vote wasn't for women wasn't implemented until I think about 20 years later or something. So we have to build now for not just this one demo, but for the rest, for the future. Because organising a demonstration, it isn't just about the demonstration itself, but it's about the experience that it gives us all. It's the process of talking to people, of negotiating panels with people, of setting up Facebook pages, of making flyers, of campaigning about libraries and talking, connecting up the library campaign to the national picture, all of these little things that we have to do. If there is a massive change in society, we want to call it a revolution or whatever, the position you come from, we are going to be the ones that are going to have to run our society. So everything that we're learning today and through demonstrating is needed for a strong future society. So I know Sheffield's a very active place, we're going to have a good time, so I'm pretty confident you'll have at least 10 coaches, I think, coming down with you. How many 40 did you say? Okay, we're taking bets on how many coaches you're having, brilliant. Right, now I just scribbled this down as I was sitting here. So the next thing after the demonstration, actually, Tony there you go, David Cameron, has now announced his emergency budget. I mean, on the 8th of July, he's now going to introduce a new budget. What's so emergency about it? Why didn't he announce it during the election campaign? Is this the same old politician, liar, pants on fire position? Is that what they've done? What else is what else are they going to implement? So we can't just stop at the demo, we have to do more and more and more. We've called a National Day of Action. I'm pretty sure Sheffield you did some stuff at the weekend as well, didn't you? I'm sure you'll be on board for that. And then finally, I think we just have to, just keep working together, keep trying different things. Some things work, some things don't. And hopefully we will build the biggest mass movement that we need for the demonstration for June the 20th, but for a future strong society. So thank you, Sheffield, for having me, and hopefully we can have a good discussion.
Right, we're at that stand up, perhaps easier to hear. We're at that point in the evening where it's kind of over to you.